Yeah, g'day guys, welcome to the channel. We're making some rock sliders today, and I'm extending the chassis back here because the internet told me one thing and it was different in reality. Anyway, I'll show you my workaround. Let's get into it. Here we go. Who would have locked it? There we go. Now I go back on it. So in this video today I'm going to be cutting out a fair bit of this sort of stuff, like it's the Brumby's original structural front end support, is that the right word? So then we can lower it right down. I'd like to have no gap between the TJ chassis rail and the Brumby sort of body, so I might cut into it there so I can lower it right down. I don't think I need to change those. I think they'll be fine. We will be able to tie these in with a bit of support. And the rear, I'd like it a whole lot closer. Like there's probably 8 inches between the rail here to that part of the body. A couple of inches is nice, but we'll try and reduce the amount of blocks that we need for the moment. So let's start getting into some cutting. So I'll just lift the body up again. Firstly I'll do a bit of marking out and things like that, and then I can lift it up and then start cutting. Let's get into that. Yeah, nothing to see here. Just doing a bit of fuel removal before I blow myself up. Nothing to see. That's about as low as I think I can get it. I can cut a little bit more out of the body. That right there is the Jeep engine mount, which I have to cut off anyway because it doesn't allow for me to put the... Where are we? See where that is? That's right near the firewall. So, and that's designed for the 6-cylinder. I suppose the V8 could have ever fit. I don't think TJs here in Australia ever came out with a V8, but not standard anyway. So I've got to put engine mounts like halfway along here and then work out where the gear stick pokes through the tunnel and all that kind of stuff, which I think I should do next before I actually make all the mounts for the body. So you can sort of see it doesn't look too bad, like for levelness. I've taken an extra 2-inch out of the rear, like a 2-inch block. Like there's a 4-inch block here that it was in there and I've just replaced it with a 2. So we're not too bad. I can put skirts or sheet metal or something around there to cover a lot of that. Don't quite know what to do with a rear bumper bar though. It may have to come off and be refabricated. Yeah, I'm fairly used to that. Gets these mounts a whole lot closer for when I do the sill replacement into a rock slider, which will have to happen after I get the motor in. Well, I'll try and get the motor and box into position so we have a gear lever coming up through the hole, so I don't have to worry about changing console or any of that kind of stuff, and as long as the motor fits. So anyway, that's enough for today. The sun's just about sort of on its way down. So a bit of an update. I pulled the brake booster out so I can install the Jeep booster, the booster and the master cylinder, because the Brumby one, it's dead and I'd have to re-kit it, but I've already got this one, so let's just make it work. And the pedal box, I've just got to make it adapt. And the steering column's out, which is over on the bench over there. So the steering column's out, and I'll try and install the Jeep one, which will connect right up to the steering box. So among other things, that's what I've got to try and do. So, but first I'm going to try and get the body sorted and get the wheel arches and everything into place, so then I can make sure when I do put the steering column in there, we have the length right. So let's get the body alignment, wheelbase. Anyway, let's just fix it, and we'll be right. So let's get into that. So how does that look? Sort of kind of matches up a bit better. Actually, if anything, I could probably go backwards a bit. No, it's pretty right. Okay, now I only tack welded down to here because I'm about to cut all that out all the way along and put a huge big chunk of steel in there as a rock slider. So this part will come out, and I'll have to work out how to bolt this to the rock slider panel somehow. Anyway, so I can just fully weld that all the way down to there, and then do the other side, quickly do the other side, and then I can try and work out the back, how I'm going to do that. So let's get into that. So there we go, all welded and ground up. Don't look so bad. All I got to do is smash in this, smash that in a bit with the old sledgy, and it'll be flush. Yeah, like I said before, I won't weld this last little piece because that's where the rock slider is going to be built into the actual sill. So we'll start doing the back, and then we'll get to that rock slider. So let's get into that. Okay, we've got a problem. Not a problem, but yeah, it's not an easy fix because the front one, it all looks really good. So from that cutting at the back there, now I've gone and run a string line down the back, and it's closer to 100 mil out, which isn't really ideal. But so I've got an option of either moving the whole guard, or the front half of the guard, 100mm forward, which isn't completely out of the question. So it'll make that wheel arch quite large, but the other downside is, will it look out of proportion, like a huge big wheel guard for the rear and just a standard one for the front? Not sure. And the other alternative is to extend the chassis by about 100mm, and then it'll be central to the wheel guard. Now I've had a look at the chassis itself. The material size is 100mm or 4 inches by 65mm, 64mm, which is a really odd size. Now here in Australia we can't get that size material, so I was thinking if I do cut it, I have to make it where it fits, at least looks right on the outside, and then I plate it to make up the difference in thickness for the inside. So I'll think on that one for a little bit and work out whether I'm lifting the body again, which is no trouble, or I lift the body and then I cut the chassis and extend it. We'll see where this goes, hey? So when I was doing the initial research on what kind of a chassis that will fit under this Brumby, because I had the Brumby, I didn't have the chassis or anything. Now the Brumby is 2440 long, with the wheelbase, the factory original wheelbase, which I got off the internet, and I thought, okay, what's close to that, and I can work around it. Anyway, the closest thing that I found, according to the internet, was a TJ Jeep. Now, I've always been a Jeep guy, so that was an easy decision just to go with that alone. And I thought, okay, what's the wheelbase? And it's 2370 millimeters. So in the real world, that's 70mm difference, which is what I originally thought, and I'd have no trouble with, to accommodate 35mm out of each end. I had to find, well, I had to reduce. Now, when I mean reduce, to make the wheelbase look right, I had to take out 35mm out of the rear of the front guard, which I did. And actually, I think I took 40. And I thought, okay, well, I'll do the same on the rear, which I went into a big, long explanation in the very first video how I was going to make it all work. So I thought, okay, so if I take 35 to 40 out of the back, the front of the back guard, I should be right. There's more than 70mm. Anyway, the internet lied. It's actually not that at all. Because when I put the string line down earlier in this video, when I put the string line down, it's more than 100mm out. Because I've already done the 35mm at the front, actually 40mm at the front. So when I've done the 40mm at the front, by notching that guard back, I've still put the string line there, and it said that it was over 100mm. It was 105 actually, plus 40mm, 145mm, and the internet said that it was only 70 difference. So now I need to do this chassis stretching. So the two different websites that I went to try and find that dimensions, they all said the same. It lied to us. We have to rectify this and make the chassis 105mm longer just to make it look right. Let's get into that, eh? So it looks like the decision is made. Body's up, and I'm going to cut the chassis and extend it by 100mm, about 4 inches. The best spot I can sort of work out is this nice parallel part here. It's sort of just in front of that mount just there, where those saddles are. So I will do a bit of marking out and cut that at a 45. I've got some material that'll be close to it, and I'll be able to make it look legit. It'll be good. So while I'm here, I'll rip the muffler out, the muffler and exhaust, because I won't be using any of that. And while I'm here, I'll remove these brackets. They're the original engine mounts. I think that's for the steering extension bracket, something or other on the TJ. So I'll cut them off while I'm there, and I might just nibble a little bit more out of here while I've got it up in the air. But first of all, got to do the chassis. I will put some blocks under it so the wheels are off the ground, so it's about as level as it's going to be. And then, oh, I've got to remove those hoses. So I'll unhook all those clamps, those hoses, so when I move it forward by 100mm, we should be fine. What have we got here? Brake line. Yeah, I think we could work it out. It'll be right, sort of, hopefully. Anyway, so let me get to all that. Boom. Okay, we have full separation. There, you can see through it. Okay, now I can try and roll one of them 100 mil. Who took them bloody wheels off? So we're back to trying to find a bit that goes in the middle there that is the right width. Now I found some material, like this is 4.5 mil in diameter. It's 64 or 65 wide by 100 high. Now very difficult to find. There's nothing that we can buy from our suppliers that will match that. We've got 100 high, so we can make the height, just not the width. So we've got to try and work out a way around and find some material. Now I've got some material I've just cut, and it is 100 high, but it's only 50 mil wide, so it's 4x2. Now what I can do is still pop it in there, square it up so it's the right height, just a little bit shy on the narrow side. Now I've got a plan for that. So leave it with me and I will tack some things into place. Got a big heavy chunk of angle iron here to straighten along, so I'll put it along the top here and clamp it all together, and so we should have some sort of straightness. Is that the right word? Straightness, flatness. Now I've got the level on here, so this frame, the front half is all level. I've just got to do the same when I clamp all the back up, and so the wheels aren't the contributing factor, because you know tyres can wear differently, so it won't be level. And who knows, there's one spring might be more softer than the other. Anyway, so we want it level and flatten the chassis rail back to where it was. Start tacking a few bits in place and clamping some stuff up, and I'll show you the little workaround to get the right width. So let's get into that. Well, I've got those all tacked into place, so they both look pretty nice from the inside. They look really good and flush. Now what I'm planning to do for the outside here is these little pieces that I've cut out of a third piece. All it was the same material as this, and I've just slit it down the middle. So now all I do is just tap that into place and get it all flush, and that covers for the outside. So effectively I've got 3 layers of steel, 1, 2, 3 layers of material upright, if you know what I mean, like 3 of these. So it's actually stronger than the chassis itself. And then after I've done that, I'm planning to put one of these on the inside. So we've got double layer on that side, and then double layer on this side. So I'll do a little bit of a montage, but I don't want to bore you guys too much. It's just plain old welding. Actually, it's not plain old welding. It's all vertical up welding, except for the underside and the top, of course. But you use plenty of heat. Now I have actually beveled all the edges of all of the material. It's got a 45-degree bevel on all of it, and that'll give me plenty of penetration to get right to the center of this steel here, which is what we really need to make it as strong, if not stronger, than the original chassis rail. So anyway, I will get to that welding part. Will be done. No one will know. There we go, there's a vertical up. It got really hot up here, so I stopped and started, so we didn't have massive big holes everywhere, but there's tons of so that's how you're supposed to weld it, vertical up. It lets the heat stay into it for longer. And now I'll do one on the other side before I come to this one to try and let some of the heat disperse. We do want it to naturally cool rather than try and quench it really quickly. I'll just turn around and do this other side and then I'll come back to this one. Don't spare the heat, always put plenty of heat in it. Anyway, I'll go back to the other side again and then I'll let this cool down for a while. I might even test fit. See if I can get some wheels on it. Well, there we have it, right there. That's the front one. Virtually center. Actually, the way the shape is, I like how I've done that. It's kind of given it that fastback look. And the rear, well, it's bang on in the middle. So hopefully I don't have clearance issues like with this little corner here or that one there in full when I flex it from one side to the other, or we'll see where that goes. I may need just to nick that little corner off like I did with the front. But anyway, I'm exceptionally happy with that. Couldn't get a better end result. I kind of had fun with the blocks here on the back because I'll just put the blocks in the same spot, and I forgot that the chassis comes back an extra 100mm now, which is not a bad thing. At least the tow bar will be functionable on the TJ chassis. So that everything works out well. So now all I'll do is I'll go back up again and I'll finish those other parts of the join, and I'll cut those old engine mounts off and a few other little things, and then we can start working on these rock sliders. So let's get into that. And I'm ecstatic about how the alignment, because I was really concerned before. I didn't want to have to move the whole wheel guard, which would have been a mammoth job. Anyway, I'll lift it back up and get back into welding, and I'll come back to you when I'm ready to start doing some other stuff. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm nearly done with the top, the inside, and the underside. I've just got the outside to do, and while I've been waiting for that to cool, I've cut off these mounts, as you probably saw, and ground them all up. Well, flappied them all up so they're nice and tidy, and ready for some new mounts a bit further up. Anyway, when this cools down, I will weld the outside. Beautiful. How's that look? Plenty of pano. the other thing that I did was I cut out a little bit more of the body so it all matches up the chassis, like the Subaru body. I've trimmed it out a little bit more, and I'll make sure that it fits over properly, and then I can just lift it off and actually cap it off so it's flush. You don't see all those jagged edges and everything, and it sits over the Jeep chassis nicely. So things are progressing along. Just a couple more wheels to go. Anyway, let's start moving along, do something else. So I've ground off the insides, and I've just clamped the fish plate right there. Same with this one. Now I'll just tack them on and weld them up. Let it cool and carry on. So shiny. Other than the bumps there, you wouldn't know that it's been extended. I'll quickly put a bit of black over the top, and then I'll lower the body. And then the chassis extension part of this video is done. Body is in its location, as to say. Now I'm really happy with the height that it is. Yeah, there's a big gap under there, but that's okay, I can work with that. Over the wheel wells it's really good, and around the front it's relatively tidy, even where the original splash guard, if that's what you call it, comes down. It's about 1 millimeter away from the sway bar in there. But I might actually notch that out, just use a hole saw and make it nice and tidy. And the gaps underneath are all pretty good. And I've got these little blocks here that are just sitting there. They're equal on each side. They're 80mm blocks, RHS offcuts just sitting there. They're both 80mm in height, from the original Brumby monocoque chassis down to the TJ chassis. So they're equally spaced. So it's sitting as level as it's going to be. Now, I was going to do this in a different video, but I'm going to do it in this one. It's I'm going to make a rock slider. Some material that I'm going to replace the sill with. Now the other side's all rusted out. It's like toast. And I didn't weld all the way down here when I did that, the realignment of the mudguard. Now, the reason I didn't do that is because I knew I'm cutting this out. So I'm going to cut it out. It's about 10mm down from there. There's actually a bit of a line there already. So if I put a marker pen all the way along there and run the blade along the zip cut, and then work out exactly how far I've got to go under, it might nearly be to the seam. I think it is to the seam. So I can just run the zip cut all the way along there, and that outer piece will just come away. I don't quite know how to attach this. I don't really want to weld the guard to the rock slider, because originally it's got a bolt there, and in the top part of the guard, it's all bolted on, so it's better if it's boltable. Anyway, so but it needs to have something, or it'll just smash into it when I go over rocks and stuff. If it doesn't smash into the chassis. Anyway, now the material I'm going to be using is this here, which is actually the same material I used to do the extension, the chassis extension right there, which turned out exceptionally nice. So this is the same material. It's actually from a set of stair stringers. I don't know if you call that anywhere else in the world, but in Australia we call them stair stringers. That was had all the saddles there, you know, 45s. So this sat up by itself and the people walk up the steps. Anyway, that's what it was. Now it's going to be a rock slider. So, being exceptionally heavy wall, I think it's nearly 6 mil. It's 100 by 50, as you know from the chassis extension. I'm going to cut that out, jam it in there. So, I'll run the marker along there and start cutting. Let's get into it. That's not much gunk. Not much stuff that falls down inside there. Yeah, I don't know why the other side would have rusted out. This end's not too bad. Okay, there must be a couple of spot welds somewhere in there to still holding it up. Leave it with me, I'll get it out. And then we'll have a sill for sale if someone wants it. Okay, there's the old sill cut out. There's a bit of crud in there. She was full of dirt and ready to rust through. Yeah, that's a bit sort of semi-amusing. It'd nearly been underwater, you would have thought. The amount of dirt that was in there. Like here it all is on the floor. That's a lot of dirt. There's a couple of kilos in there. This whole car must have been, I don't know. Well, it's not on the flooded register anyway, so, which is a bonus for me. Anyway, let's get into trying to fit the old stairwell and go from there. I might just sand off this edge first, something to weld to, some of the under edge, make sure it's actually where we want to go with it, and then we're done. Well, first I'll get all the dirt out first, so we don't have any further rust issues. Anyway, let's get into that. What a mess. Oh, how does that look? That's bloody awesome. Just a little bit of trimming in there, and a little bit of trimming on the back, like the back of the rail, not the back of the sill. So I've got to take that out and do a little bit of grinding on the back of the sill, because that's where the steps used to go, and they're a couple of mil proud, and they're right in the way where I want to weld. So I'll take that out, clean it up, and Bob's your uncle. So there we go. Rock sliders are done. The chassis is stretched. And the wheel looks like it's in place. Bloody awesome. I'm so excited about this now. It's going to turn out really, really good. So the chassis is all sorted. Now the internet misled us. Is that the right word, misled? I think they lied to it. Anyway, so I've got the chassis sorted and the rock slider on this side's done. I'll do the other one off camera. And then we'll be able to do the body mounts in the next video. And I reckon we're going to plonk that motor in there. Yeah, in the next video we're going to put the motor in the transmission in to get them aligned up and work out where that engine mount's going to be for the front. And then we'll be able to finalise the body mount. So anyway, all that's in the next video. We'll catch you in the next one. See ya.